Morning everyone. I'm sowing sweet peas today. First of all, I want to riddle this compost, not because the seed itself needs the soil riddled, but what I want to do is just check the compost, make sure there's no slugs in it. I had sweet peas growing, they were autumn sown and grown, and they were doing well in the greenhouse at home, but I hadn't protected them in my usual way. When I came to look at them after Christmas, they were all gone. They'd been eaten right the way down. I couldn't see a bit of green at all. I moved the tray off the bench and hid it under the bench or between the slats on top of the greenhouse bench. 3 slugs, some about this size. So this sieve in the compost is just a way to try and eliminate slugs from the mix, because I'll put these in somewhere where they're protected against slugs, and then further protect them against the little buggers coming and eating my plants. Nothing really lost with losing the plants, because I can sow again, and you can sow now for the next couple of months quite easily. All it means for me is whether we're August sown or autumn sown and where I'm sowing now in the new year, it'll make a difference of about 4 to 5 weeks in the flowering time. The autumn ones will flower earlier, and what I normally do is I normally have autumn ones and spring sown ones, so I get the continuation of crop through the year. And I'm using Rootrainers here. Now these ones I'm using here are not strictly Rootrainers, they're just deep cell pots, but they do work as a root trainer. And you'll find after a while that the roots will come out the bottom of these, and you'll see them all heading down, and I think that's due to their tapered design, and there is a couple of ridges there to guide them so they don't go spinning around a pot. I mean, because traditionally you would just sow them in a sort of 3-inch pot or even a rose pot, is what we used to do. But yeah, I'm sowing them in these. There are other Rootrainers, the ones that open up like a cassette. They're really good. I've got some of those and I use those as well. There is a third type that I've seen. It comes in a big solid tray like this. The cells are much deeper and the plastic is a lot flimsier than this. Stay away from them. I'll put a link in the description below so that you can see exactly what I mean. They might be good for other things, but as a root trainer they're hopeless, because the cells are so long and thin. It's difficult to get the whole plant out, and you end up having to shove a pencil up or a piece of wood or something to push it out, or you only pull out half the plant with half the roots, which kind of defeats the object of it being a root trainer as far as I'm concerned. I bought one, I saw it, I thought, oh, that looks good, and you know, it's one of those things, it just didn't work for me. So that's a bit of useful information. So if you're going off looking for root trainers, you can see this one first and think, no, well, Steve said that's rubbish. I'll probably stay away from that. So with these, so these are from Container Wise, and these are about 4 or 5 quid each, but they are worth it because they're super strong, sturdy. And all I'm going to do is just fill them up with compost loosely, because this is a kind of a 2-stage thing really. I don't want to force it down too much. You'll see why when I come to do the watering in a minute, which is where these are going for now. They need a damn good soak now. So with these cell trays loosely filled up, not compacted, I'm going to let the water do the compacting for me. So I shall water these heavily and then come back in a few minutes and I'll water them again, and that you'll find will push or settle the compost. And you want this compost absolutely drenched, and then you want the modules to drain off as well. And then we're ready then for the next stage. Just say I'll come back in a couple of minutes, water them again. I can still see air escaping from them. You can maybe see air bubbles in there, but I want them completely soaked. Now, when it comes to seeds for sowing sweet peas, there are many varieties out there. There are the very simple and very, very cheap, just sort of a single, almost a flat petal, just a couple of petals on the plants. And they're nice enough, and a lot of those have a beautiful scent as well. There's also this simple sort of bicoloured flowers like the Cupanis. Again, they're a very small, but I prefer the much bigger and much blousier Spencer or Heritage types. And I get mine from Eagle Sweet Peas, and that's the collection I always grow now, called the Chelsea collection. I've tried all their other collections, and this has been the best for me. And that's £12. There's 8 varieties in there, 20 seeds of each. And I think that's a bargain, and I'm probably going to sow most of this packet today. Now, it's the same as growing potatoes. There's a thing about sweet peas about whether you should shit them or soak them or not. For most part, I don't. I have tried it in the past. I think I tried it last year and it didn't quite work for me. So I'm going back to my old traditional method of sowing and growing them. Now, you saw me with the compost, putting the compost in this and just lightly filling them and rubbing them off the top and then watering them. There's a couple of reasons for that. The first one was to sort through the compost to make sure there was no slugs in it, because slugs are the major enemy of young sweet pea plants, the same as mice are. Mice will eat the seeds. So sorted through that, put it in, but it also allows for easier drenching, and I wanted that compost drenched because I'm going to be putting dry compost on top of that, but more of that when we get to it. So unsoaked and unchitted, I'm going to be sowing these seeds. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to place 2 seeds on the top of each cell. If you're worried about congestion, you can always nip one out later if you want to. I generally don't bother because they're not going to be in here for that long before they're planted out in the ground, and then they'll get going. And I'm going to be growing a lot because I like to have them at home and down here at the allotment as well. And I have them sort of near the back patio doors so that on a summer's day when we open the doors, get the scent of sweet peas coming in the house. If the scent isn't already there from the cut flowers I've taken home. So that's all I do with those. And then simply just with dry compost, this is sieved straight from the bag, just cover those cells up. Now what needs to happen for germination is the seed coat on these seeds needs to get wet all over. That will soften the seed and make it swell and expand, and then it will crack open and then the seed can start to grow. So what you're doing here by putting the dry compost on is you're drawing the water up past the seed that you've just sown on top of the wet compost, and that's enough to get it to swell up to grow. And then when I've done this whole tray, I'm going to take them home and I will put a sheet of newspaper over the top just to hold back some of that moisture. Don't want to put plastic on. I've tried that, didn't work for me, got mold problems. So I used newspaper, or general, it's just a couple of pages of a magazine or something. And I'm going to put these in my kitchen, and I'll tell you why. These only need a temperature of about 15, 16, 17 degrees really to get them going. And if you put them on the kitchen floor, somewhere in a corner out of the way, put a bit of newspaper down or a tray underneath them if your partner's worried about it. But the temperature in a kitchen is ideal, and also you know then that no slugs can get in to eat them. And what you do is just check them daily, give them about 4 or 5 days to a week, and then just check them daily, pull the paper back and have a look. As soon as you see germination, then you can take them out of the kitchen and put them somewhere else, somewhere protected. I mean, for me, it's on top of my hanging shelf up there, which I'll show you later. Somewhere still protected from slugs. And that's all you need to do. So you don't need those ultra warm temperatures of a propagator. You just need 15, 16, 17 degrees, and that's enough. So there we go. That's as simple as it gets. I'll sow the rest of these and then we'll carry on with the video. So with your compost in your trays, sieved and then soaked, which also drops the level down. And you've sown your seeds, just cover them with some dry compost from the bag, press them in. Now, don't water these at all now until after germination, till you've got little seedlings coming up. Do not water them. The capillary reaction of the dry compost on top of the wet will draw the water up past the seed, as I think I said earlier. So that's all you need to do. Cover them in some newspaper and keep them somewhere relatively warm, sort of 15, 16 degrees is fine. I say, for me, it's kitchen floor for me, and then I can keep a better eye on them. So there we go, that's that done. So once you've got them germinated and they're coming up and they're a good sort of 1.5 to 2 inches tall, that's the time when you can sort of put them somewhere else. But be careful, because slugs will still want to have them. My plants were this tall over Christmas and they got munched by slugs. And don't forget that mice will want the sweet pea pellets as well. They love them, and if they can get their hands on them, they will eat a lot. So I use this is my hanging shelf, and it's basically just a 13-foot scaffolding board held up on my crop bars of this tunnel with 2 bits of rope. Just keeps things out of the way of some of the pests, not all of them, but it's why I check the compost as well, because I don't want to be introducing slugs into this safe zone. But I do go one step further, and I do use slug pellets. Now I know this divides opinion, but I've gone to organic slug pellets last year to test, and I still am testing them, and so far the results have been okay so far. Where I've used them I haven't had a problem, but it's by no means a proper test for me. I used to use the old blue pellets, but I only use these in a controlled environment so that any of the wee beasties out there that might be affected by them don't have a chance to get at them. They're all up here on my hanging shelf. Is the only place down here on the allotment that I use them, and I use them in my greenhouse at home on the benches and on my heated propagator there, and they're the only spots that I use them. And I will put a couple of these on top of those trays of sweet peas that I've sown there, simply in case there's a slug in there that I've missed. They said because one slug is enough to cause damage, and I had it, was it last year or the year before, I can't remember which, but I had my sweet pea sowings in the kitchen. They were coming up one day and I noticed it at about 7 o'clock at night. By morning they'd all gone, the whole lot had gone. I had to start again. So one slug was actually in the compost, and that's why I do check it. It's worthwhile doing to stop the heartache and the cost, you know, because those seeds cost me a tenner, 12 quid. So you want to protect your investment, so to speak. And if you, as long as you use slug pellets in a controlled environment, I think it's more than adequate and fine for you to use. Now, there were some people who sowed along with me last autumn, and their plants were, I've mostly come up. There's been lots of people saying about them, and that's brilliant. Couldn't be happier for you. You'll get earlier flowers than me because mine haven't come. I have got another sowing here of sweet peas. They're looking a bit bedraggled because I actually knocked these off the other day. There's only sort of 5 plugs in there, but I managed to knock the whole tray off. I've had to replant them. Hopefully they'll come. But they're a special extra early variety, so they'll go up their own wigwam. But for those of you who did sow them, and your plants will be like this now, and there was always this thing about sweet peas, about nipping the top 2 or 3 leaves off to encourage branching. If you've grown them from the autumn, you don't need to. They will naturally branch, and you've probably already got side shoots on them anyway. That's all you want, so don't nip them out. It's the spring sown ones where you need to nip them out. You're trying to get them to grow ultra quickly and to branch ultra quickly so that you can get them on and moving and get them in the ground and flowering. So with the autumn ones, you don't pinch them out, but the spring ones you do. And that's all you need to know, really, I think. Just an added thing, if you sowed them in autumn, they might be a little bit hungry now, so give them a liquid feed, give them a boost between now and planting, because it's going to be another sort of 6-8 weeks before you can get anywhere near putting your plants outside. And if they need potting on, your autumn ones, your autumn sown ones, do pot them on as well. That will also help. So there we go, that's it, sweet peas in a nutshell. Hope you enjoyed that. Do look after yourselves, everyone. Please stay safe, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Ta-ra now.